Folks? This is Ray at Imperial Flame Kennels. Just taking a minute to give you guys an idea of what we feed over here. Um, you really can't see it too well, but there is some raw chicken here. And these are for puppies, folks. All right, and I have some nutrition dish dog food. I'm really not a fan of kibble, so let's be clear about that. I feed my animals raw meat, uh, supplemented with what we call a little dog man stew. Okay, but the idea is I chose this particular kibble because when the pups go to their new homes, most folks are not going to be feeding their dogs raw meat. They're going to be feeding their dog kibble, right? So I chose the healthiest kibble that Walmart had to offer from what I could see. If I can bring this in a little bit, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it claims that chicken is the farm-raised chicken is the number one ingredient in this. There's no cornmeal fillers and all of that kind of stuff. No gluten, no soy, no grain. So that's why I chose this particular kibble so that when the pup does go to its new home, uh, it won't be being weaned off of raw meat and being put on a kibble diet. The kibble won't be brand new to its system, so to speak, and you won't have the upset stomachs, the diarrhea, and all of those things that could literally spoil your experience with a brand new puppy. Okay, so not only do we have raw chicken here, and this you'll see that this is the chicken thigh from a leg quarter. I assume the chicken drumstick is still in the bag somewhere. But when I went in the bag, pulled this out, this is what we have. And here you have most of the meat that I've shaved right off of that leg quarter. All right. So I've pretty much separated most of the fat out. Puppies' digestive systems are really pretty like brand new. So you don't want to include a whole bunch of fat. Normally, when I feed my dogs, my adult dogs, I give them the whole leg quarter as is, complete with bone, fat, the whole 9 yards. I don't trim anything off of it. I give it to them just as is. My female wolfs it down. Lately, my male has been a little bit picky, but I suspect that I had someone baby dog sit for a bit, and they were feeding him like frankfurters and stuff like that, so his appetites become kind of spoiled for processed meat. But this raw chicken is chopped down really fine into small bits. The dogs are 27 days old today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some of this chicken in with some of this kibble, right? And also we have here 91% lean ground beef on farm raised or grass fed animals. So there's no the animals weren't fed steroids and stuff like that according to this label anyway. And the chicken, the ground beef and stuff like that, I pick it right up at Walmart. So this is excellent. Again, 91% lean. The fat out takes a lot of the stress off the digestive system of the puppy. So with that said, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and start setting up the bowls, and you'll see the dogs, you'll see the pups how they actually go with this stuff. Like they tear it up. I can't tell you how they're gonna do with the kibble. This is their first day with kibble, but they have had raw chicken before. They have had raw ground beef before, and they tear the stuff up like their mother's milk. So in addition to that, what I'm also gonna do to sort of soften that kibble up a little bit is I'm gonna be using a little bit of this stuff. And this is milk replacer. So this has got a bunch of vitamins and stuff. And typically when your dam is not really feeding the pups, or maybe there's just one pup who's not really getting enough, stuff is used as a replacer. You pour it in a bottle, in a little baby bottle here. And, it's pretty much 2 scoops for every 4 ounces. Or I'm sorry, 2 scoops for every 8 ounces. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some of this, and I'm going to pour it in a bowl. Pour it in this little bowl here. Excuse me. I'm going to put it right in this bowl here, and I'm going to allow this kibble to soak into it. right? Soak in that milk, and then I'm gonna add the chicken and the ground beef and let the pup have at it. Um, I'll let them eat to their fill, and then pretty much like they do with their mother's milk. When they're done, they'll stop eating and they'll fall right off of it. Um, Again, I'm not a big fan of kibble. People like it because it keeps forever, so forth and so on. And me personally, I believe in natural processes. I believe that you feed your dog what it would normally eat in the wild. Its ancestors are wolves. Wolves eat raw meat. Like they don't. You're not gonna find a wolf. A wolf will probably look at this stuff and like, okay, what is that, right? Um, so I believe in natural processes. I believe in paying attention to your dogs, paying attention to pups. I started actually weaning these pups when they were a couple of days past 3 weeks. And the reason I did that was because they were literally nipping at their mother's mouth, asking for the solid food. They drink her milk, but there comes a point where, it's just not enough for them and they're looking for the solid food. And so that's when I began to start feeding small bits of raw chicken, small bits of ground beef. Um, and they're maniacs for the stuff. I can't put it any other way. So with that said, let's go ahead and crack our bag open. I don't know how this is all going to turn out. The lighting in here is not that great, so please bear with me. And of course, I've never even opened a bag of kibble like this before, so I'm going to have to get my knife out here. All right. Now, to be honest, I do this for customers, for clients who have left their reserve for their puppy and they want a particular dog food. Now, I was actually looking for Blue Wilderness and couldn't get it. So this is going to be for Nicole Spalding. This is for your pup. And then I have here some Iams, and that's going to be for Gina Robinson's pup. Okay, so just so you guys know, the things that you asked me to do for your pup, we want to get these pups prepared in every way possible for their new home. So, with that said, we're going to go ahead and open this one up as well. Right? I'm going to pour a little bit in here. Not too much. As I said, the pups are brand new to this stuff. And we don't really want it sitting around once we've gone ahead and put the milk in it and all of that kind of stuff. That's a pretty ugly scenario. You don't want that to happen. So Gina Robinson, that's your Iams for your boy Beefcakes. And I call him Beefcakes because he's the biggest thing in the litter. Like he literally almost dwarfs every other dog. He is huge. So let's set that there. We'll set this here. Nicole, this is for your little guy. I call him Splash because he's got this splash of white on the back of his neck, aka Fall Guy. And the whole Fall Guy thing is because he's a stunt man. He's probably the most reckless out of the entire litter. First time I put them in a small bin or something to sort of keep them away from their sleeping area while I was cleaning it up. He was the first one out of it. In fact, he tilted the whole thing over and spilled everything, and spilled all the puppies out. So that's Fall Guy. I think this is really a little bit much for him. I'm gonna take some more of this out of here. I just want to make sure I got the right bag here. It's very important that you don't overload them. You want them to get nice and plump. You want them to get, you want them to get the itis. You want them to eat to the point where they just fall out. But you don't want to have a whole lot left over in your bowl. So because their teeth are still really small, and kibble is hard the way it is. I use as little as possible. And then we go ahead and put the milk in it to soften it up. So with that said, we'll go ahead and start with our milk replacer. As I mentioned earlier, I usually use about 2 scoops for every 8 ounces, as per the instructions on the can. To me, it doesn't hurt to use a little bit more. My pups are a little bit larger than most pups, than you would expect in most pups. Pit bulls are not necessarily a large breed dog, but they are pretty robust in terms of energy and structure. They can get pretty thick. So we're going to make sure that we give 2 nice size scoops, right? You see that? And I kind of level it off right in the can. We drop that stuff right in there. Well, lost a little bit. That's okay. And just replace that. Okay, there we go. And we don't get too fancy with it. Run a little tap water. I don't mind using purely hot water because, again, we're only going to use enough milk to soften up the kibble. The rest of it we'll actually put away in the fridge for tomorrow. You see, so we've got a full 8 ounces there. Go ahead and put our top on. Says my battery power is 19%, folks. So if we get cut off here, do forgive. These things happen. Again, I'm no professional videographer, and I'm really only doing this because I understand that people like to see what's going on. I believe in as much transparency as humanly possible. When you're purchasing a dog, and I've had some nightmare experiences purchasing dogs from so-called breeders, and everything that I do today is based on my dissatisfaction with some of those experiences. So there's our milk replacer. We remove the cap, pour a little bit in there. And again, we're only using as much as we need to soften up the kibble. All right. So we'll let that soak in a little bit. Go to this guy here. And again, this is still, for me, this is still a bit much. I know the pup is not going to eat all of this tonight. If you add in the fact that you're going to have ground beef in there, you're going to have chicken in there, you're going to have the milk replacer, and they may even hit the titty again before the night's out. So this is a bit much. We're going to go ahead and take some of this out. That amount there is more than enough. And if I see that they're still hungry when they're done, then we'll go ahead and we'll do another bowl. But for the most part, we don't have to do that. We don't have to try to do it all in one shot. So I use just enough to cover the kibble. And that's sort of what that looks like. I don't know how well of a shot that is, but you guys see what's going on. And then it's just a matter of adding your chicken. Now, me personally, I don't weigh it out or anything like that. I pretty much give the dog according to their size. A dog like beefcakes, that's not unreasonable for him. He can get that down. But we're still going to chop it up a little bit. We're going to use smaller bits. Now, one of the things that I don't like doing is feeding dogs cooked food. And when you use hot water on meat, guess what? You're cooking it. But under the circumstances, they're going to have a home where this is the type of thing that they're going to have to get used to. They may be eating. Some people do feed their dogs leftover scraps of cooked meat and processed meat and stuff like that. And that's fine. Whatever works for you, that works for you. I personally don't do it. I'm not a fan of it, as mentioned earlier. But that's not to say that it's necessarily a bad thing, right? So what I'm going to do is just sort of stir that around in there. I don't want the dog to feel like the meal itself is overwhelming. But these dogs have a pretty healthy appetite. They constantly nip at the mother's mouth for some solid food. And to be honest, she is rail thin. Like, she tries to keep up, but at the end of the day, they are a bit much for her. So the chicken is mixed in. And that's going to be going to, this is going to Nicole Spaulding's dog, right? As you can see, I've taken most of the fat out of the chicken. Try not to use too much fat. Try to get as much lean meat as possible. My adult dogs, I don't mind feeding them 73% lean ground beef. All right, so you can kind of see multivitamins and things like that. Today's day 27, so tomorrow they actually go in for shots and deworming. You want to protect against parvo and things like that. Puppies are really pretty vulnerable. So when it comes to this type of stuff, we want to be extra careful. Some people might wait a little bit longer. Not I. I kind of pay attention to what the dogs themselves are telling me. When my dam shows me that she's having trouble feeding them, she really can't cope too much, I let her break. So here we have our 91% ground beef. We're going to take a little bit of that, just a nice little chunk of that, and drop it right in there. Again, 91% ground beef, 91% lean, rather. And we just drop that right in there. Now, to be fair, I am going to be feeding these dogs what you yourself want them to be fed. But the other pups will be eating strictly raw meat. There won't be any kibble mixed in their food. I really won't even use milk replacer for them. I just use this milk replacer now because it's an excellent way to soften up the kibble. And what you're going to see is that with this particular diet, the dog's going to blow up with it. My only thing is that kibble tends to make the stool kind of soft, and there can be some diarrhea and stuff like that. Whereas with the raw meat, their body uses pretty much all of it, and the stool comes out really hard, really small, almost like in little pebbles. In fact, sometimes the stool doesn't look a lot different than the kibble when they eat raw meat. So that's kind of how that came out. This going down in a puppy's stomach. This is quite a bit of food for them. So as the days go on, of course, they'll be able to eat a lot more, and that won't even begin to cut it. And I have to say, Blue Wilderness and Iams are they are foods that get a pretty good rating. When I couldn't find the Blue Wilderness, I searched. I did an internet search for comparable brands, and this particular brand, this Nutrish, came up. So I settled on that. It was available at Walmart, and the whole idea of this is to make this as easy a transition for your pup and for you as humanly possible. All right, so there we have our kibble mixed in with our chicken and our ground beef. Right? Now, I'll be honest, I tend to get confused between the two kibbles. I don't know which is which. So, I'm going to just reach in this bag, take a second look. Okay, the little smaller kibbles are from Iams, which means the larger kibbles are from the Nutrish, which means this is for beefcakes. Pick of the litter, biggest boy, Gina Robinson's dog, and this one is for Splash. All right, so I don't know if there's a way to pause a live video, but I guess not. I'm just going to go ahead and bring you guys with me as I bring these to the pups. Let's go feed our animals, guys. So what you'll notice here also is that I've got some cedar chips right in their area. Move. What I'm gonna have to do, because these dogs are maniacs, I'm gonna have to separate the two dogs while they eat. And I'm also going to have to separate mom and dad because they're looking, saying, hey, what's going on? All right, so let's start with that process. There's Beefcakes. He's ready for his already. Let's see if I can get away with that. Let's see about that. No, I don't think so. Wait a minute. Move. Sorry about the choppiness of this part of the video, but at the end of the day, it's kind of what we got to do and the way we got to do it. You can see Beefcakes is ready to eat. He's ready to eat. So we're going to take this big guy, Gina Robinson, here's your pup, and we're going to set him right to eating. They have a tendency to stick their feet rather, right in the bowl. As you can see, he's going at it pretty good. His sister is trying to get in the act, which is not really a good thing. Uh, I'm missing somebody here. There he is. Here's Splash. So I don't know how well you guys can see that, but I'm going to try to set this down so that they can eat. And got to kind of separate my other guys here. Let's go this route. Okay, Splash is getting it figured out. Beefcakes is getting it figured out. There he goes. All right. Yeah, again, the professional videographer thing is not in me. So it's a little hard for me to get this done in a way that makes sense. I don't know if you guys can see that, see what's going on there. Let's see if we can't get a top-down view. Let's get that off. No, I don't think we're seeing dogs eat. Wait a minute. There they go. There they go. Now this one here, she's my keeper, and she knows exactly what's going on in terms of intelligence, in terms of attitude, in terms of structure, in terms of development. She is like, she's the, so it's a bit difficult to fool her and keep her out of stuff. Tennessee, stay. Case is still trying to work it out. She's still trying to work in. Splash looks like he's doing his thing. Pretty good at what he's doing. As you guys can see, Beefcakes is pretty much all but finished his. You know, he's still looking for more. All right, battery's low. I think that about does it for this video, folks. We'll try it again the next time. Well, folks, I mean, you kind of saw what happened there. This is the end result of what it looks like. There you go. And there you go. So that's what they left behind. If there's anything else that you guys have questions about, feel free to hit me up. Not a problem. I'll answer all your questions as much as I possibly can. Take care now.